From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo. The sun went down on the G7 summit in Alberta, with some world leaders and foreign policy experts leaving the Rockies with glowing praise for Prime Minister Mark Carney as host. French President Emmanuel Macron, who will host the G7 next year, said Carney fulfilled his mission of preserving the unity of the multilateral organization. Others noted Carney for his pragmatism and savviness amid a new war between Israel and Iran that pushed the U.S. president to leave a day early. At the conference's close, Carney said the G7 leaders were committed to the pursuit of peace and made clear that Iran is the principal source of instability.
And we've been consistently clear that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. We urge that the resolution of the Iranian crisis leads to a broader de-escalation of hostilities, including a ceasefire in Gaza.
Israeli warplanes pounded Iran's capital overnight. The Israeli military says bombs hit a facility used to make uranium centrifuges and another that made missile components. Prime Minister Mark Carney insists his meeting with India's visiting leader during the G7 summit in Alberta yesterday was a necessary step toward rebuilding the relationship between our two countries.
In the closing press conference for the G7 summit, Mark Carney refused to say whether he had directly raised accusations with Prime Minister Narendra Modi that Indian state agents were behind the murder of a Canadian citizen in BC 2 years ago. The bilateral discussion between Carney and Modi was among the last things on the agenda. Carney's office says the two countries have agreed to designate new high commissioners and restore regular diplomatic services to citizens in both countries. Canada expelled Indian diplomats who refused to waive their diplomatic immunity in order to participate in an RCMP investigation that's tied to the death of Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar in 2023. From the Canadian Press, I'm Don Mitchell.
New data shows we're spending less time in person with our friends than ever before. A StatsCan report says only 19% of Canadians saw friends on an average day in 2022, compared to nearly 48% in 1986. Experts point to the pandemic and the challenges and costs of modern life as possible reasons. And the Stanley Cup is not coming back to Canada just yet. It's sticking around the Sunshine State. The Florida Panthers claimed their second straight NHL championship last night with a 5-1 home ice win over the Edmonton Oilers to take the final in 6 games. Die-hard Oilers fan Jacob Golka was among scores of disappointed fans who watched the game in the Moss Pit outside Rogers Place in Edmonton.
I thought that at the very least, I'm not saying we were going to win the Cup, but I thought that we were going to win this game and bring it back home to Edmonton for at least a chance at it. And we looked like we didn't care. Everything Florida did was just better than what we did.
It's been 32 long years since the Cup has been won by a Canadian team. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, the Florida Panthers repeated as Stanley Cup champions by beating the Edmonton Oilers 5-1 to win the final series in 6 games. Florida's Sam Bennett won the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP, but the Toronto area native was quick to give credit to his whole team.
The depth of this team is just, it's remarkable. The amount of guys that stepped up this year and had incredible playoff runs, it truly could have went to anyone.
In Calder Cup final action, Linus Karlsson scored twice in the third period to lift the Abbotsford Canucks to a 6-1 victory over the Charlotte Checkers and a 2-1 lead in their AHL Championship Series. And in baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays snapped their 3-game losing skid with a dramatic comeback in the 9th inning. Bo Bichette hit a game-tying solo homer, and Addison Barger followed it up with a no-doubt blast that gave the Blue Jays a 5-4 victory over the visiting Arizona Diamondbacks. It was the Jays' 22nd comeback win of the season. From the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.